Building. Jim Walsh is here also.
He's somewhere around here.
Joe's in the building.
Yeah.
He came flying in and said he's got an emergency at his work, so he's out in the hallway or something. We don't know. But we'll figure it out. He'll be here shortly, I'm sure, folks. Here we are, Mortgage Talk 101, Mortgageville. It's a sunny day out there, Jim.
Yes.
Looking good. We're I guess we're in the great fall weather here, right?
It works for me.
Yeah. What is it supposed to be today? Is this like 50s, 60s or something?
Well, they just told us. And
I did. I wasn't listening. We didn't have it on, did we?
Well, I can play it again if you like.
Yeah.
All right, let's play it again.
Let's play it again. What's the
sunny
weather?
Skies here for this afternoon. A high in the lower 70s. Winds
Lower
out of southwest
70s.
at 5 to 10 miles per hour. For tonight, partly cloudy, a low near 41, and south winds around 5 to 10. By Friday, mostly sunny, high near 70 degrees. Breezy with west winds increasing to around 20 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. And by Friday night, mostly clear skies, a low near 38.
It's going to be nice out.
Yeah.
I'm
There's your weather
meteorologist
forecast.
Jennifer
Again,
Wojcicki
just
on
because
Super
we weren't
Talk
paying attention,
1270.
so. Anyway,
Right now, 43.
Well, let's talk about something related to mortgages, huh?
Okay.
Should we do that? All right. Rates. I got them up here. I just got to find them. All right. The Freddie Mac survey. We always do that every.
Freddie.
We do that every week here on Mortgage Talk 101. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage. This is the survey from the last week. This just came out this morning. Averaged 3.92% for the week of October 23rd. That was down from last week when it averaged 3.97. And a year ago, we were at 4.13. So we're pretty close to where we were, a little bit lower than a year ago.
Even though the weather is drastically different from a year ago.
Yes, definitely. We had snow already by this time.
Snow on the ground.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's a connection. I'm just commenting on that.
Have we jinxed it now?
I hope not.
I hope not. Okay. No snow.
Knock wood.
Knock wood. Yeah. Oh, okay, Jim. You don't have to hit your head. That's okay.
Okay.
All right. But anyway, rates still going good. Last week was the big move. Last week, the rates dropped a lot.
Oh.
This week, a little bit more. They're probably actually coming up a little bit this morning. Market's moving the other way. The 15-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 3.08% this week. That was down from last week when it averaged 3.18, so that went down a full 10 basis points, which is super. So anyway, rates are still good, folks. You can get out there. I know with our first home program, we've got our lowest rates at 3.5% for a 30-year mortgage, which is, we're going back to last year in like May is the time frame for rates that low. So rates really dropped last week, and it's a great time to lock in super low rates again. We were talking about this, 2 years ago. We had super low rates,
Right.
And they're almost back to where they were. So that's great. All right. Other stuff on Mortgageville. Let's see, Jim. We got some fun stuff here this morning. I think
fun stuff.
We have. Whoops, if I can bring it up here.
Gasoline prices are coming down.
Gasoline prices are coming down. That's good news for us, kinda. Because that means oil prices are going down.
I know a lot of people are complaining because it ties in with the oil business and the industry going on here. Yeah. I'm happy about it.
It's okay. I was actually in Arizona last week on vacation, and gas was below $3 down there.
Yeah, it is in Fargo. Parts of Fargo, it's already below that.
I'm thinking when I got back here, I saw where our price was, and I said, I bet you Fargo is below
We should all drive out to Fargo, tank up, and drive. No, that wouldn't work.
No, it's not that big a difference.
No.
But yeah, everywhere in Phoenix, it was below $3. It was like $2.97, $2.95.
Yeah, even in California, it's come down a bit.
Yeah. So that's good, but not good for the oil business necessarily because the price is getting close to where it's pinching the.
Yeah, I understand that. We hear the same argument in Texas when I lived there.
Oh, did you?
When the gas prices went down, half the people went yay, and half the people went.
Yeah. So it's probably a nice medium right here. They're still pumping oil. I don't think they've stopped.
Oh God, no.
So
no, they're still pumping. They're still out there.
I don't think they've stopped. I don't think they've stopped drilling yet. So maybe we've got a happy medium here. We're right around $3. Let's keep it there, and then that makes maybe everybody's happy then.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy either way.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I'm a happy guy.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see some fun numbers here from our friend Elliot Eisenberg. graphsandlaughs.net. This he's talking about marriage here. This relates to people getting married.
Well, I just had my wedding anniversary this week.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. 8 years.
8 years. Okay.
I never knew what happiness was till I got married.
All right.
Now it's too late.
I've been married 20. I got you whipped, boy.
Well, boy, howdy.
Yeah. Coming on 20. Coming on 20. I'm not 20 yet. I'm getting there.
Ding dang do.
Yeah. So anyway, let's see. But Elliot here he had his little blog on weddings, and this kind of relates to buying a house. And you get married. You know, a lot of people like to spend a lot of money on their wedding, right?
Sure.
You know.
Well, usually it's the groom's father, right? No, the bride's father.
Bride's father. And you know, I remember my wife and I when we got married. You know, we weren't young. Yeah. And we both had our own places, so we both had stuff.
Right.
You know, I had dishes, you had furniture, and all this stuff. And you know, the best gifts we got was cash.
Of course.
Yeah, that was the best thing we got. When people gave us cash, it was like, well, that's a lot better than getting the toaster oven from Target. You know? Because we don't need that necessarily.
Well, the idea behind the whole registry thing is you're telling people what to buy for you.
Yeah,
that's probably the second best option.
Yeah, so you know, we got cash. Well, that's great, and I think it's wonderful for a young couple getting married if you got cash.
Oh, we got cash. We got a lot. Everybody gave us cash,
and you could you're a little bit older, so that's a great gift. And it actually, I think it's good for everybody because then let the people decide what they want to buy.
Yeah,
to some extent, and maybe they want to use it to buy a house. You know, down payment on a house. Help start that savings for that. But anyway, Elliot here is talking about marriage. He said, economists studying marriage find that the more lavish the wedding, the shorter the marriage. To be precise, the chances of getting divorced are 60% higher if the wedding costs more than $20,000 compared to less costly nuptials.
That's interesting because I have a cousin who got married in 1978. They spent a ton of money on the reception. He's still married.
Okay.
Still married to the same girl.
He's working good.
Yeah,
that one's
he's doing
working
fine.
out.
In fact, I remember somebody told me a story that his future father-in-law actually offered him like $10,000 if he would elope.
Yeah.
And mommy-in-law got the word on that, and she put the kibosh on that little love.
We're having the ceremony. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, now similarly, all else equal, the chances of getting divorced rise by 30% if the engagement ring costs between $2,000 and $4,000 compared to rings costing $500 to $2,000. So the moral of this little thing here is don't spend too much on the actual ceremony.
Oh, you shouldn't have to.
You'll have a longer marriage.
Yeah.
And don't spend too much on the engagement ring. Save some of that for buying a house down the road.
Works for me.
And you'll retain your spouse and you'll have a long, happy marriage.
And if it rains on your wedding day, let it rain.
Let it rain. Our wedding day rained like crazy.
Yeah. Ours, it was cool. It was late October. All right. And it was not too bad a day.
Yeah, ours is May. We got spring showers.
I don't think it's such a big deal.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, we'll be back on Mortgage Talk 101. It's Eric Clapton Day at Mortgage Talk 101.
All facets of his career.
All right.
Dream, blind faith, the whole kibosh in there.
He had a lot to. There's a lot to choose from.
Right now, 43.
Your news leader, weeknights at 6 and 10. Super Talk 1270.
Blind Faith.
Blind Faith.
Mr. Winwood and Mr. Clapton.
Yes. Good
Some
song.
pretty amazing acoustic work from Mr. Clapton.
Was that Clapton playing or was it
I think it was
Steve?
Clapton, yes.
Okay, all right. Winwood is singing.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, okay. All right. Mortgage Talk 101 here. Dave Flohr sitting in for Joe Sheehan at the moment. Jim Walsh on the board. Joe's hanging around the studio somewhere. He's at emergency at work apparently, so we are filling in here as the host. Jim, did you know in Tennessee you can go to jail for not mowing your lawn?
Really?
Yep. Tennessee woman was sentenced to jail for not mowing her lawn. Here's what happened. Lenoir City, Tennessee, began last summer. This lady, Miss Karen Holloway, was just sent she got a citation for overgrown grass and shrubbery. She works a full-time job and has 2 children living at home, a husband in school, and 1 family vehicle. Admits the yard needed some attention, but that it just wasn't feasible to do the work. The bushes and trees were overgrown, but that's certainly not a criminal offense, she says. Okay. Last week, Judge Terry Van handed down a 5-day jail sentence to Holloway for refusing to comply with the city ordinances regarding yard maintenance, specifically the lack thereof. Holloway feels this was all just too much, saying, "It's not right. Why would you put me in jail with child molesters and people who've done real crimes because I haven't maintained my yard?"
Yeah, that seems a bit extreme.
She feels she was bullied during the process because she was never read her rights or told that she could have a lawyer present. No, I would guess that there's maybe another side to the story.
I'm guessing that too.
There always is, and obviously, people at the city or something may not wanted to speak on the record about this. I think what happens in North Dakota anyway, the city, if your yard is looking shabby and you haven't cut your grass and stuff, they'll come out and mow it for you and charge you.
Yeah.
Keep it pretty simple.
You can always find somebody, neighborhood kids. There's always some kid who's willing to do it for a couple of bucks.
So there's probably something more to this, but it just sounds terrible on its face, doesn't it? That somebody would get sentenced to jail for not mowing their lawn.
Yeah. I mean, how bad does it have to be before it actually poses a threat to the public at large? I mean, that to me should be the standard. Is there danger to the public at large?
Obviously, if you're the neighbors, you're upset about it, and it looks bad. And
it looks terrible, but that's not the reason to call the police.
I guess if some wolverines or something start hanging out in the yard
or snakes are
bush, or
lingering
snakes
in the grass, and somebody's family dog walks by and the snake grabs the dog. I don't know.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear the rest of the story, as they say, right?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, that's another one. Let's get a little more from Elliot Eisenberg here. Last week, first-time claims for unemployment. We talk about that and how obviously that's very important to housing. Fell to their lowest level since May of 2000. Well, that's a good sign, I think, Jim.
Yeah.
And population adjusted, you have to go back to the week of May 17th, 1969 to get a lower number. So you would say the unemployment rate in the country is really in a pretty good shape.
You would think.
In addition, industrial production jumped 1%, the largest gain in 2 years, and consumer sentiment hit a post-recession high. But the problems continue to be low labor force participation, flat wages, and weak capital expenditures by form. So there's a lot of people, as we've talked about before, that have left the labor force. We talked about the difference.
Well, that's
in
the whole question.
Rates.
They don't count the people who have simply given up on finding work.
And we talked about that difference in the different unemployment rates, the U6 versus the U12 or whatever it is. Flat wages, we talked about that, how flat wages.
Is there a U2?
That they're in Ireland.
Oh,
that's the Ireland unemployment wages or
no, I
rate
thought that was
for
UB40.
bands.
UB40 is the unemployment.
Well, U2 is Ireland unemployment rate for bands.
Okay.
Is U2, and then UB40 is the bands that have just given up.
Yeah, they're all home drinking red wine, I'm sure.
U2, you're still out there. The UB40s are out drinking red wine. There we go. Yeah. Okay. But we talked about, flat wages, how, even the jobs that are being created now are not the great paying jobs. Although, obviously, in North Dakota,
quantity versus quality. Well, North
Dakota, we have a mixture of what you would say are low paying and high paying jobs.
If you're not qualified to work in the oil fields, you're still kind of out to lunch.
Yeah, and even though you're making $15 at McDonald's or $17 at Walmart or whatever it is,
and you're paying $5 for a loaf of bread,
and
whatever.
$1,000 to rent an apartment, or if you're in Williston, or if in Williston it's even more than that, maybe. Obviously there's a problem.
You heard about that new movie coming out? It's going to be in town here in a couple of weeks. The documentary, I think it's called The Overnighters.
Yeah, and that's about
supposedly it's about the dark side of what's happening out here with the oil.
They came out to Williston. They're looking at all the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Which is fair.
There's good and bad. We all know that.
I mean, on my show, which I do here a couple times a month, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
There are some people who are hurting.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
You know, the economic miracle, as everybody likes to call it, does have a dark side in this town.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, there's if people haven't heard the story up in Williston, the mobile home park that was sold to an out-of-state investor who came in and raised the rents. You know, the lot rents on the places. Everybody, pretty much everybody owned their own home in there.
Yeah.
Older mobile homes, and the lot rents were like, at the time it was sold, they were like at $300, and this out-of-state person came in, bought the place, and obviously they paid a chunk of money for it. They were raising the lot rents up to like $800 a month.
Are they allowed to do that?
There is nothing in North Dakota law that says
okay.
There's no limit on how much you can raise the rent.
I just find that curious, but yeah.
There's no limit on how much you can raise the rent in 1 month, and if the market stands for it, it works. And I think, what's happening is they assume some people obviously would probably move out, and then they can bring somebody in. I think they put some restrictions on if you move in the age of the mobile homes. There's some restrictions on that. They have to be newer ones, et cetera. So they're trying to change the face of the mobile home.
Well,
park,
I know some places
harming a lot of people.
I know some places because of the way the leases are written. They can only hike the rent so far. So what I hear, and we have no way of proving any of this, and I obviously am not going to mention any one specific place because you never really know. Mm-hmm. But the rumor is that some of these places are deliberately making it hard on the tenants to try to get them to move out so they can bring somebody else in and charge them through the roof for their rent.
Well, I think that's
like
that
I say,
occurred?
there's no way of proving any of that.
Has that occurred? Probably, but. And I think, a lot of the apartment buildings here are probably owned by local people.
Sure.
And, they've had them for probably, many, many years.
Or
they've
state
owned
people.
Them.
There's a couple places in town that are owned by companies out of Fargo.
They've had them for many years, and they decided, well, I'm going to sell now because obviously, looking out for myself and my family, this is the best time I could have to sell my property, and they do it, and then it's being bought up by out-of-state investors that need to make their money back, and they want to get their return fairly quickly. And the way you do that is you raise the rents. So.
If everybody else is raising the rent and you don't raise yours, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
I don't think rent control is the answer. No. Because everywhere it's been tried, it makes things worse.
It doesn't work.
In the long run.
Yeah. It's up to the individual owner of the property has to decide what's a fair rent. Now, I know a mobile home park owner here in Bismarck, and his philosophy is he's got people that have lived in his park for years. Yeah. And I raised the rent enough to cover my increase in expenses, and that's it. He said, I got long-term people that are, they've lived there. They're they're friends, and he doesn't want anybody to have to move or anything. So he's very reasonable about what he has to do when he raises his rents annually. And it's basically based on his expenses.
Well, the question is, in my mind, if there is such a shortage, why is there not more building going on?
Well, obviously, there is a lot of building going on.
If there is that much of a demand, okay.
I don't think it can keep up. I think we've had the home builders in here talking about this spring how wet it was here, and it was so hard to get work started. Getting started on building the homes because it was so wet this spring, so that delayed things. And that was just here in Bismarck. Well, the same problem was in Minot and Williston, Dickinson. We had a wet spring, and that certainly affects things. But I just don't think the builders in the state just haven't been able to catch up to what that demand is, and it's very difficult.
Obviously, you don't throw a house up in a day.
Yeah, and when you don't have the year-round building season.
Yeah,
like in California or in Arizona or something.
My dad was a bricklayer. He worked year round. Yeah. Unless it got really super cold, which unlike here in the East Coast doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. No, once you get a place up and enclosed, then you can work on the inside.
Sure.
But to dig foundations and stuff, even though they've I think made great advances on when they can dig into the ground and make it. I mean, they do a lot to accomplish that.
But still, it gets to a certain point, they just can't do it.
There's a limit.
Yeah, there is a limit.
Yeah, so it's difficult. It's going to be an ongoing issue as long as this continues. And so far the word is that it's gonna keep going. So housing is going to continue to be a big problem out west, especially, but across the entire state. All right, so we come back on Mortgage Talk 101. It's time for a break here. We'll have
Eric and the Dominoes.
We got a little more Eric Clapton, and we'll have some more. We'll see what we come up with to talk about. All right.
Right now, 43.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Thinking about the times you drove in my car.
Clapton.
Okay.
Cream.
Badge.
I think George Harrison sitting in.
All right. Okay. So because Eric Clapton played on the White album.
Yeah, that's right.
My guitar gently weeps.
Yeah, I learned all kinds of stuff listening to this program.
Yeah, well, when you have two nerds like you and I, music nerds, I guess.
A little fiction and fact from Jimbo's Almanac.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Very good. All right, Mortgage Talk 101, folks. Dave Flohr and Jim Walsh here. Joe Sheehan's in the building, as far as we know. We haven't seen him since he walked in right before the show.
Joe had an emergency.
He had an emergency. We think he's hanging out in the hallway.
Yeah.
But anyway, he obviously had an emergency because it's been a half hour. So anyway, we're filling in. We're rocking it here. Okay, Jim, I'm going to talk about. We talked about this. Millennials, big deal. Millennials, that's the age group 24 to 30 something,
whatever,
somewhere in there. Okay, younger than us. We know that.
A lot longer.
Younger than us, and how. But the big thing in the mortgage industry with this is they're not buying homes. Darn those kids. But there's a good reason for it. Student debt, wages. They're getting out of college and they don't have the wages aren't there. We just talked about flat wages.
Yeah,
in the country.
They need to buy houses so they can get off our lawns and get on theirs.
There you go.
Get off my lawn.
And there's a big talk. I think we talked here a couple weeks ago about parents doing. Providing down payment assistance and gifts to the kids. Which is
great, yeah.
Get them out of the house.
Yeah.
Please, they've moved back. They were in, then they were out, and we thought, yay, and then now they're back in.
My son is 35. He's living in the basement.
We want him out. Yes.
He's divorced.
Okay. So anyway, they want him out, so they're giving him gifts. Anyway, millennials buying homes is a big deal in the mortgage industry, or the fact that they're not buying as many homes as we would like to see them.
Sure.
But there's good reasons for it. But when they've done some surveys here recently, have come out and looked at it, and the young consumers still are interested in buying a house. It's just that they can't do it right now.
Yeah.
It's not in their best interest at the moment, and you can understand that. But they still see the need to do it. It's something they want to do. But college costs are a big part of that with the student debt, and this comes from Rob Chrisman's daily blog, and he had an article comparing. In his article, he talked about comparing the cost of student loans today versus what they were in 1960, and they adjusted the numbers for inflation here. It used to be kids could work a summer job, part-time job, going to school, and that would pay for their school, right?
Sure.
I mean, I did that. I did that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when my first time around in college in the 70s, I was commuting I was still living at home with my folks and commuting to college every day, a half-hour drive either way every day. And a semester of classes cost roughly, it was under $400.
Yeah, well, the numbers are very similar. And I did that.
$400 now would get you one credit hour, roughly.
My job in the summer paid for my tuition for the year easily. Now, what happens here, what's happening here, when they looked at these numbers, very few summer jobs pay well enough to make a dent in a $40,000 tuition bill. To pay tuition, room, and board for 4 years at Harvard today is about $65,000 a year.
At Harvard.
So parents need to earn, assuming a 50% tax cost, in the neighborhood of $520,000 in pre-tax money to handle that.
You pretty much have to be a Kennedy to get into Harvard.
Harvard's tuition in 1960 was $1,520. Adjusting for inflation, that amount would still be only $11,990 today.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference. State schools have also dramatically increased what they charge. In-state tuition at the University of Virginia costs $490 in 1960, which would be $3,865 in today's dollars. The but the current cost is $12,458. So 3 times. So all of the government, Rob goes on to write, although the government has piles of studies denying it, student loans appear to have induced or at least facilitated the astonishing rise in tuition.
We got kids coming out of school who owe like $100,000 for their full college tuition.
Yeah. So I thought this was pretty interesting from Rob Chrisman here. When they adjusted the numbers for inflation, you could see, okay, and that's a big debate here in the state. We're having a measure we're voting on changing the governance of the university system. So, and folks, guess who's joined us in the studio? He made a flash dash in and said, I got an emergency, and now he's back. The emergency is taken care of. It's all done. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Sheehan.
Your body built for radio, saddling up the stainless steel microphone of the Mortgage Network. Hey, I apologize about that. Here's the deal.
You left the folks with Jim and I.
This has never happened in all in these years. This has never happened during the show where I actually had a closing emergency. On the where I was supposed to be on the air, and the disadvantage of live radio and being in the mortgage industry at the same time.
Well,
but just a memo to the folks. Don't change your job status a week before you're closing.
Okay, well, we've talked about that before.
Good call.
Don't change your job status a week before you're closing.
We have a real life example of this.
So I was on the phone. I was working with underwriting and processing and trying to figure out and a loan officer trying to figure out a solution to solving a problem to get a loan closed that otherwise was going to leave people homeless if we didn't solve it. But these are the things that when you hear about closing nightmares. Of course, what you always hear is that the bank screwed up.
Of course,
you did,
you always
Joel.
hear that the bank screwed up. Is what you
sometimes they do.
And so, but
they're human.
But typically, there's usually only one side of the story that ever comes out because banks are bound by laws of confidentiality and they can't tell you what else happened.
Yeah.
But in an instance where you have you have someone, people don't understand. They think if they just make enough money that you can get a loan, and it doesn't always work that way. Yeah. That there's real specific requirements on how you get that money, how long you've earned the money. How we prove you have the money. And so if you have a full-time job and don't agree to take a part-time job while you're in the middle of a home loan, even if it's for the same company.
Yeah.
Even if it's for the same company. That's the lesson learned.
Well, we
today.
talked, I don't know if you were probably gone that week.
Even if it's a really good part-time job that makes a lot of money.
We talked about Ben Bernanke getting turned down, couldn't get qualified. Same exact reason. He left his Federal Reserve job and was out on his own as a self-employed speaker.
And is there any doubt Ben Bernanke doesn't make enough money?
Well, when he gets $250,000 a pop for speaking, I think he's okay.
There's no doubt that he won't be at the next North Dakota Housing Conference.
No, he will not be.
He makes twice a year, and he's got $500,000.
He will not be here.
And so anyway, this hadn't happened. This hadn't happened before. I'm sure you covered interest rates.
Yeah,
folks,
we did. Yeah.
This is, and that's a part of it. Is it's just we're busy.
So anyway, I got
right
something else, and you can think about what you're gonna if you got anything to talk about. But did you know?
I mostly brought the interest rate employment updates. There was so much stuff from Elliot on the employment stuff. You covered that. I knew you would. Other than that, I had a couple of scenarios about gifts. Questions that we got from listeners about gifts.
Well, let's go through those.
Where they feel like they're getting jerked around by their bank because of gifts.
We were just talking about when you came in.
I'd rather talk about this to start with and then get to those because this is your baby. This whole affordable housing.
The gift thing we were talking about with the student loan costs about that people were parents. They got the millennials. They were out of the household, then they went back in, and now we need to get them out. Down gift money.
Mm-hmm. Get Junior out
of
the basement.
Them out.
Yeah, we want them out again, please.
My son is 35. He's divorced. He's living in our basement. Get him out of here.
Yeah. So we can talk about this right now. Right in. So what do you got? What were the questions?
The question was, of course, is that the borrower sent me an email asking about their dad is giving them a gift. And the bank is asking for the dad's bank statement, and the dad is furious about this. And you can already see this happening. I can already imagine. I've had the actual live phone call with the grandpa from Bishop before on this.
Yes.
And it goes something like this. It's like, this is Jim's grandpa up here in Bishop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave him that money for that down payment on the home loan there, and Now they're saying they want my bank statement.
Yeah.
And then, well, yes, sir, we got to have your bank statement. We got to prove that you had the money, that it didn't come from Jim, that Jim didn't get it from somewhere else, give it to you, and then you give it to us. Well, why the heck would anybody do something like that? And why? I've been banking at the Bank of Vishik for 50 years, and they never asked for my bank statements.
Yeah, and this guy is as honest as can be.
He's done everything right in his life.
He doesn't understand.
He walks into the Bank of Wishick and they cut him a check for 40 grand, 50 grand.
Yeah.
Probably a farmer, probably cut him checks for millions of dollars,
Sure.
to buy equipment or whatever, to supplies.
Not a stupid guy.
And now he's given $6,000 to a grandson.
Yeah.
And what does he have to do? He has to give his bank statement over. And it's just like he feels completely violated.
Sure.
Well, the truth is, yes, you have to provide it.
Yeah.
The donor of any gift has to prove that they had the money available before they gave it to you, and that it didn't come from an illegitimate source.
Yeah, like the seller of the home or something,
or the builder.
Yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately, folks, in the years prior to all these rules, people did things like that. Builders would price up a house, run $10,000 through a dad's account, who would then give it to the kid to qualify for the loan.
Yep.
And or they would get it from anywhere else.
Yeah.
The kid would go get the money from an illegitimate source, a loan somewhere that was going to add to his debt to income ratio, give it to dad, put it in dad's account, and then dad gives him the money, and now the guy can't afford the kid can't afford the home because he's got this other payment for the gift too.
Yep.
So you got to do it. And we got another one about leases on cars too.
Okay.
And how they affect the home loan that we got as a question.
Yeah, we had one where we had to foreclose on this house because the kids they walked away from it. And they'd gotten a $10,000 gift from one of the grandparents, but the grandparent, he did not think that was a gift. In his mind, it was not a gift. That was his money.
He's going to pay me back.
And we were foreclosing. He wants his money back. He ended up actually thinking about he was going to buy that house, but they actually got it sold for enough that he didn't get his money back. But
that's a little risky, folks, and we'll talk about what the other complication is there. Maybe the F word.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that when we come back after the break.
It's getting near dawn.
Right now, 54.
Your news leader, weeknights at 6 and 10. Super Talk 1270.
Yeah, one for all the hippies there.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate because Joe here looks like Billy Ray Cyrus or somebody.
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Ouch!
Wow.
You got that whole thing
Why
going.
couldn't you say Anson Mount instead?
Okay.
Who's that?
Cullen Bohannon on Hell on Wheels.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, we're back.
that.
Mortgage Talk 101. That's just like me. Missed out on the first half of the show. Just come in and take over the announcer responsibility.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just like that.
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
Give me that mic back, Mr. Housing.
I wasn't even on your mic today. So there. I was on my own.
All right. Well,
whatever this color is.
Yeah.
Green. It's camo green.
Camel green. Anyways, the dangerous thing about
gifts.
we were talking about gifts. We were talking about Grandpa. You said you had a foreclosure.
We had a grandpa, and there was a foreclosure. And the grandpa, in his mind, he'd given his grandson $10,000, but in his mind, that was still his money, and he was going to get that back out of that house. And the question was, well, you go right ahead. You pay us, whatever he owed us. You go in. Buy it back from us, not a problem.
Now that was a really dangerous game, by the way. And I want to caution everybody when you do that, when you do stuff like that, because here's why that's a dangerous game: is that because when Grandpa gave that gift, Grandpa had to sign a donor form.
Yes, and he did.
Said that this is a gift, and that there'll be no requirement by the borrower to pay it back.
Yeah.
Now, technically, had you not been working with Nice City Nice, North Dakota Housing, who knows that the grandpa wasn't trying to do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And if this had been a phone call to a large servicer, somebody who deals with billions of dollars and doesn't have time for anybody's,
business.
Yeah. And then had this been a result of a CFPB audit or investigation.
Yeah, there you go.
That's mortgage fraud. I said we're going to come back with the F word. That's the F word, fraud. Yeah. And technically, that would have been an opportunity to file a fraud report and prosecute for committing mortgage fraud because you didn't really give that gift. You really gave a loan, but you signed off on a form certifying and promising that it was a gift.
No, it
resulted in a foreclosure.
He wasn't making them pay anything back. He wasn't getting a loan payment from them. He just thought he got mad at his. He was mad at his grandson and his grandson's. I think it was just a fiance girlfriend thing. And she was on the mortgage and everything, so he gave the gift to both of them. He was upset, with both of them. They were splitting up, and he had given them this $10,000, and he was mad. They weren't paying him back. He just wanted to get his money back out of it because it had to go to foreclosure so soon after he'd given him the money. But you're right. Technically, in his mind, even when he signed that gift form, because we had to send that to him and show him, you signed this, and you said it was a gift. You're right. Do you deal with if that would have been audited, or that would have been he would have been talking to a large servicer somewhere that it could have cared less. They could have went out and filed a fraud.
He could just be arguing that I didn't really mean that I didn't give it to my grandson as a gift. I just didn't give it to the bank as a gift. But he'd had some splaining to do.
Yeah. We understood what was going on. We understood what was going on with this, but you're right. Somebody else wouldn't have understood it.
You got some splaining to do because they're so used to seeing people commit stuff like that.
Yeah.
That you'd have been guilty till proven innocent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Other question we had that came to us was about car lease.
Yeah. Okay.
And what happened is the borrower asked if that he'd gone in for a home loan and that later on in the process, and I don't know why this happened later on in the process, but the lender came back and said underwriting's requiring you to pay off the car lease. This is a bigger problem than that. And this actually, I answered this question right away. I didn't wait till the air. If it's a real serious question that actually involves a scenario, I'll try to answer these questions right away. Because this was a real serious situation because the advice wasn't understood exactly correct. Now maybe the lender didn't give it exactly correct, or maybe the person didn't understand it all correct. Okay. But it's bigger than that. The car lease was going to be done in about 10 months.
Okay.
Now, normally, folks, on a car loan, if it's a car loan and it's going to be done in less than 10 months, you might be able to pretend as if that payment doesn't exist.
Because it's less than a year.
Yep, because it's less than a year, and it would help you qualify for your home loan. Because remember what they're always trying to do? They're always trying to prove that every payment is a hit against whether or not you can afford the house or not.
Yep.
Well, you can pretend that payment doesn't exist and take it out of your debt-to-income ratio and take it out of your budget if there's less than a year on it.
Yes.
Now, underwriter discretion, of course.
Yep.
But what happens here with the lease is less than 10 months on a lease. The problem with the lease is that there's assumption by underwriting that you have a need for the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a need for the car. So just because the lease pays out, when the lease pays out, you give the car back to the underwriter assumes just because the lease payment's gone, you're going to have to replace that car with another car, which means you're going to have another payment that's either going to be the same, because nobody gets something that's less nice.
In most cases, probably not. Yeah.
So you're
equal to or better.
Equal to or better. So you're going to have a payment that's equal to or higher than what you currently have on your lease.
Yeah.
So actually, the only way to solve this problem was because the way they understood is we just got to pay the lease off and then we're done. Well, the problem is you pay the lease off, but then still the car's going to have to go back in 8 months, and then a new payment's going to have to begin at some point.
You got two choices with the lease. You replace it with another car, or you pay off the balance on that car, which is a lump sum of some large dollar amount. So the underwriter, I would assume, would look, well, do you have that much in cash reserves?
That doesn't work either.
That won't work either.
That won't work either, because if you misspend the cash reserves and still have the need for that car, you're setting yourself up for failure in a budget. Because that's the first question I was thinking is, well, so I got the answer, and not only did they have to pay out the lease, but they had to buy the car.
Buy the car, okay.
They had to buy the car or pay out the lease and replace the car, but there had to be a new car. Mm-hmm. Now imagine this, folks. I'm going to get that house. But before I get the house, I got to get a car.
Yeah, that's usually the reverse of what we tell people is
don't buy a new car.
Don't buy a new car.
Yeah,
don't
you've heard us
get
say.
a loan.
You've probably heard me say 100 times on this show. Whatever you do, don't go car shopping before
You made a
get
loan
a home
app.
loan.
You're going to close on this date. Do not do anything in between.
Yes, do
as far
not.
as taking out any other debt. But in this case,
now the great thing
because
about
you already had a debt.
they had the cash reserves,
Okay.
so there was no new debt.
Okay.
They had the cash reserves to both put down the down payment, to pay out the lease, and buy the car.
Okay.
And that did save the home loan. But it was a good thing that they got clarification and were able to go back to the loan officer with clarification.
Sure.
Because had they not been able to do that, they would have paid off the lease, got farther into the underwriting process, and guess what?
Yeah.
They'd have found out they still had to pay for the car.
Yeah.
And had they spent the money on something else,
Yeah.
or who knows, they'd had a problem, maybe not closing on their home. So,
Yeah.
so that was a near miss. But it's just so funny to come on the show. For years, for decades now, I've been saying, whatever you do, don't you dare go car shopping before you get a new house, or before you try to qualify for a house, or before you buy a new house, or during a home loan. And now we're coming on, and we in this case, it's like a Seinfeld episode again. We had to buy the car to get the house.
Yeah. But in this case, they weren't really car shopping.
No.
They were just car loan shopping.
They were just
something to
It was just one of those things where it got
so
upside down.
the advice still holds, folks. Do not, from the time of your loan application to closing, do not go out and take out any extra credit cards. Don't go buy a car. Don't take out any other loan debt. Right.
That's
that
right.
advice still holds true.
It's true about almost your whole being.
Yeah.
At that point, don't even change religions.
Stop your life.
Yeah, just
go to work. Go
don't
home.
change churches.
Go light. Yeah.
Don't change your underwear. That's about all we want you to change
Just-
during a home loan. Just keep changing your underwear.
That's a good
Change your
advice.
socks.
That's just good advice across the board.
No matter what you do, you can keep
Just
changing
keep
your
doing
underwear.
that.
But literally, when you're in the middle of a home loan, it's like the great Billy Joel song. We love you. After we've approved you, we love you just the way you are.
Just
Yeah.
the way you are. Don't
Just the
go
way you are.
changing.
Don't go changing.
Don't go changing.
Yep.
love you.
There's nothing
the way
to do
you
after
are.
that.
Okay.
And that even means, mistakes I've had people made. I've had people elope, or people who didn't tell us they were going to get married. They have a small ceremony.
Oh.
Marital status. When you're in the middle of a home loan, you even need to ask the loan officer for her hand in marriage.
Yeah.
I am telling you.
Yeah. Not just dad.
Not
it's
dad, the loan
ask the loan
officer.
officer.
May I marry her? And the answer will almost invariably and ultimately usually be no.
Yeah.
Wait till after. You can live in sin in the house for 2 days
Yeah.
and then figure
Yes.
it out.
Heck, once the paper's signed, you go over to the courthouse right after the loan
Right
closing.
after the loan closing.
You're good.
If you know a judge personally, we'll invite him to the loan
You
closing.
can do it right there.
Right after we sign
right
the
after
papers.
everything is signed. So,
All right,
yeah.
folks. Well, that's
Are
the
we
end
done?
Are
we done?
It goes
Jim?
so fast when you only show up for half the
No
show.
kidding. I didn't get enough of you today.
Oh wow!
But no, I take that back.
Yeah,
I did.
let's.
Okay.
Let's.
All right.
Oh,
Okay, well,
boy.
goodbye,
And with
everybody.
With that, we'll close the show here.
Will we be back next week?
I don't see why not.
Okay, all right.
I sure
Let's
hope
come back
so.
next week.
Let's come back next week and talk about home financing and then brag some more about how we
Should
were
we
right
do a
about
whole-
rates going below 4% again.
Yeah.
I think we need to brag about that for a long time.
Yeah. And we need to get Bill Bodner on, the guru.
Oh, you know what? We do need him on.
We knew that.
All right.
Man, he is like a guru.
Yeah.
All right, enjoy. It's always
All right.
partly sunny in Mortgageville, folks.
Okay.
ABC News, Super Talk 1270. Accurate news, stimulating talk. This is KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck.